excited to be here with Ellen Porteus. How are you? Chat. R&B is there. Festus is in the house. Johanna, thank you for being here looking after us today. Johanna's our fantastic moderator who will help us out. Anything we need. Valwo, nice. Good morning, evening, whatever. Yeah, that's right. So we've got people all around the world tuning in at this time slot. It's quite fun. We're going live from Sydney. Well, I'm going live from Sydney, but you're in Melbourne, Ellen.
I am, yeah. I'm in my Melbourne studio in Collingwood right now, which is freezing. But yeah.
You got your Uggies on? I've had a lot of streamers with Ugg boots on in the morning.
I put proper shoes on for the occasion.
It's very professional of you. I do. I have Ugg boots under my desk. Yeah, no, that's great. And it's a new studio. You moved in recently, like kind of around the shutdown time, if I recall. Is that right? A little bit before?
Yeah. A little bit before, so earlier in the year, me and my partner got the lease in this place, but it's actually kind of been good this lockdown time because we've been able to work at the studio, and I've been painting a bunch. Like you can kind of see behind me, I've been painting a big leopard print wall and doing a bunch of crazy stuff here, which has been really fun.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, that's great. Well, so we're going to get the live stream started now. We've got so much to cover, so maybe we'll get stuck in soon. So Ellen, we might go over to your desktop in a moment, and we'll check out maybe some of your work for those that might not be as familiar with your work as I am, and we'll check that out now.
Sure thing. So we might go over to, can you see this now?
Yep, we've got you now. Yep, great.
Cool. So this is my Jacky Winter Portfolio. So this is just kind of a collection of my most recent work. So for me, you know, I do a mix of digital art, digital illustration, animation, and installation. So we can kind of see here a bit of a mix of that. So we've got some work here that I did last year for Facebook New York, and some personal work that I've done. This is from my exhibition that was just in December last year. So yeah, I kind of do a bit of a mix. I do, you know, large scale murals. I do kind of looping GIFs. I do a bit of lettering as well. So yeah, this is kind of just a bit of a mix of all the kind of things that I create. So, you know, this is a good example of a project that is one of my favorites. So this is a poster for Courtney Barnett. And she had this song that was about kind of walking alone in the park at night and having her keys between her fingers to feel safe. So she wanted a poster for her Berlin show. So I kind of used that as inspiration to create this illustration, and it was a screen print that you could buy at the show. And you know, I really love doing work for the music industry, so that's always a highlight for me.
Yeah.
And yeah, maybe I'll go over to my Instagram as well. My Instagram is a lot more frequently updated than any of my folios or websites are, just because that's the nature of social media. So, you know, sometimes I'll do things like this. This piece I just sort of created for fun. And so I'll often do kind of things on my Instagram and just post them up rather than, you know, just commercial work. So that's a good place to follow me just for sort of random sort of one-off things that I like to create.
Yeah, awesome. And I think one of the first things I noticed were the GIFs. So we can see some of these ones here, like the moving animations, like where it's like the multiple hands and kind of do this infinite looping animation. I think that's probably some of the first work that I noticed of yours. How long have you been doing that sort of thing?
Well, I studied visual communication up in Sydney, where you are. And one of the kind of electives were animation. And so I learned After Effects there. And I kind of just immediately took to it, I think, because I was already sort of digitally inclined. Translating my work into After Effects and creating it in Loop was just a really natural sort of progression for me. So I kind of picked it up there. And then when I started doing freelance illustration work, I started integrating animation into it too. And I think it's just a really a good way that sets my work apart from from others because I have not only a distinct kind of illustration style, but I also have quite a distinct animation style as well.
Absolutely, and like a really like vibrant color palette as well. I've always noticed that it's always really bright. Like often when you're scrolling, and then you sort of work really pops out. Like there's the movement really smooth, really crisp colors, and everything kind of pops out. So yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, I love choosing colors is my favorite part of any project.
Awesome. Okay. Well, I know you have a lot prepared for us to check out today. So maybe we can jump in and get started.
Sure thing. All right. So I'm going to be working in Illustrator today to do a static illustration, and then later jump into After Effects and show how I would animate it. So I've got here this piece. I've kind of been lately, maybe for the past year, just really been obsessive over kind of symbols of luck and the idea of feeling lucky. And so in my like kind of, notepad and stuff, I'm also doing these kind of symbols and stuff, create a piece that is together and kind of create this piece about that feeling of when everything is kind of going a little bit too well, and the sort of unease that comes with that. So with my personal pieces, I'm often kind of inspired by feelings, and I kind of try and translate that into a piece. So with this, it's kind of this like multi-frame composition that I do sometimes. So it's kind of about bringing lots of different compositions and symbols together into the one piece. It's kind of like comic-y almost. So here I've got, a few frames that I've already finished, but I want to put something here. So that's what I'm going to be taking everyone through today. Cool. So I've got, I'll show you the sketch. So I've got a girl, kind of cowgirl, who I want to draw. And then in the animation, she's kind of going to be looking like she's kind of walking slowly forward and kind of looking backwards and forwards. So yes, this is a sketch. So I start with sketches and I just take a quick photo of them. I really don't spend too much time with a pencil and paper. It kind of depends how confident I feel with drawing it digitally, how long I'll spend sketching. But I keep it like extremely loose, and because I know that like what I like doing is taking lots of time in Illustrator, using the pen tool and sort of adjusting things perfectly. So there's not much point in me spending too much time sketching. Yeah,
and this is obviously a hand-drawn sketch that you kind of take a photo of on your phone and just bring it in, and it's more of a guide for where you're going to put your lines. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. It's kind of just for me to get a sense of the shape of what I'm drawing and just a good feeling about it, rather than I won't ever like sort of trace it exactly from the sketch. I'll just kind of use it as a guide.
Cool.
So what I'll usually do is take a photo of it, pop it in my artboard, and then I'll do a quick digital sketch over that. So I've already done that. So that's like a really simplified version of the sketch. And then from there, I will kind of start doing layer by layer each sort of piece. So I'll get started on actually drawing now.
Cool.
So because I'm animating this, I like to keep in mind my layers. So in After Effects, like you can animate each layer. So I kind of separate them out and try and name them as I'm drawing. So that makes it easier when I make the transition into After Effects. So
that's awesome. You get bonus points on Adobe Live if you name your layers, and chat always loves it when guests save their work. It reduces anxiety.
Oh, well, people are going to love it because I've got so many layers going on in After Effects. So everyone will get a good peek into my organization.
Nice. And just letting everybody know, if you're watching over on YouTube or anything like that, jump over to behance.net/live. We're here for about 2 hours this morning. And that's where you can jump in and ask questions as we go. So, sorry, Ellen, I'm just letting everyone know there's like a Q&A break in the middle. So a regular, viewers of Adobe Live know this. about halfway, we'll kind of collect a bunch of questions and we'll do some Q&A. But please ask questions as we're going along. And if it's an easy, quick to answer question, we might just ask it as we go.
Yeah, that sounds great. So I'm just going along with the pen tool and kind of drawing along where I've marked out the hair. So when I'm drawing, I kind of use a combination of drawing with the pen tool, like you just saw then, or using the brush and then fixing it up after. Right. But I tend to, no matter what I draw, I always go back in and kind of fix things up. Because I definitely, I like things to look a certain way. I like, curves to look, quite perfect. And my work is very there's nothing kind of loose about it. It's very sort of, controlled and sort of every stroke is thought about,
Yeah. It's something very neat and purposeful about your work.
Yeah, I think that's just a reflection of my kind of perfectionist personality. Like, I wish I could just do a loose sketch and be happy with it, but I have to go in and fix each little point.
Right.
But yeah, I think aesthetically that's just what I like as well. Like, I love anything that's round and curvy and sort of thick and anything like that. Like, in my opinion, the best, one of the best illustrations is like the Michelin Man. I love that logo. I love that illustration. Like, just the sort of bounciness. You just kind of want to poke it.
Yeah.
So I kind of try and inject that sort of feeling into my aesthetic, I think.
That's great. Like, just channeling Michelin Man always. That's awesome.
Totally.
I have a question around that. Do you have an outlet for more loose work as well? Like, is there anything you do loose to compensate for how attention to detail you are with your commercial work?
No, maybe not creatively, but I'm pretty a pretty loose cook. So, right. So there's non kind of art related things, or I get that out of my system.
Awesome.
But and I've tried to experiment with doing kind of more freehand painting and things like that. And I'm just trying to get a little bit more freehand with that. But I do find that difficult because I'm so used to perfecting every line. So I might do the lips next.
And you mentioned even with your Instagram is updated more with personal work, but it's in the same. It's that aesthetic. It's that perfect aesthetic. So even when you're doing work for yourself, you've still got that attention to detail. Want it all to be perfection, that kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's my idea of perfection. Yeah, but in the sense of it's these kind of rules almost that I've kind of set myself that I subconsciously follow. But I guess any artist does that when it comes to their style. They have their ways of doing things, and when you're trying to explain it to someone else, it sounds kind of weird, but it's just how I do it.
Yeah.
So for example, one of those things would be I always put my strokes on rounded edges.
Oh yeah.
I always stick to a certain number of stroke widths. So within a piece, there's kind of a color palette. I'll have a palette of stroke widths as well. I don't like going all over the shop with it. I like to keep it consistent. So yeah, just little things like that I think, they're the sort of rules that every artist kind of adheres to.
Yeah. I feel like round corners should be on as default.
I know. Fix that up, Adobe.
I always pretend that I've got a line straight to the top. I don't. I can't fix anything.
Yeah. Well, someone has to, though. Someone watching.
Someone has to. Maybe Howard Pinsky's in the chat or something. He's got a direct line.
Yeah.
How long did it? I'll
So
ask this question like as because it'll certainly come up. But how long did it take you to develop your style to a level, like either to a level that you're satisfied with, or to realize that's kind of the aesthetic that is working for you, either personally or commercially?
It's funny. It kind of just, I've been creating work. I've been, drawing, painting, whatever, since I was so young, a little kid. But it wasn't until I was at university and I was introduced to Illustrator and creating things digitally that this style kind of emerged. I'd done, watercolors, I'd done acrylic painting, collage, all these other things. But I always felt like I was kind of impersonating someone else's style with that.
Right.
But then, as soon as I kind of opened up Illustrator and learned how to use the pen tool and the brush tool, I was able to just naturally create in this way. So I guess in a way it happened both quickly and slowly, depending on how you look at it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think because, I'm really influenced by kind of cartoons, like 90s cartoons, like Dario is a big one for me, for example.
Oh my God, this is Dario vibes right now, isn't it?
Yeah, totally. And, that kind of style, like that really sort of bold graphic style, it's really hard to get those influences in your work if you're creating something, with watercolor or collage and stuff. So it was just, for me, it was about just finding the right medium. And then it came quite naturally after that.
Yeah, cool. I might just ask these questions as we go. What do you think?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah? All right. Tell me to shut up if you need to focus, or you want to tell us tell us more about what you're doing. But there's a lot of questions.
No,
there's
okay.
a lot of questions.
Okay. Yeah, no problem.
Have you ever thought about iPad drawing in Fresco? Have you ever tried Fresco on the iPad?
I haven't tried Fresco. I have got an iPad Pro, but to be honest, I haven't picked it up in a little while. So I should give it a go. I did try some other drawing apps a little while ago, but it just didn't gel with me as well. I think maybe because I'm so used to Illustrator. I think I need like a version that's close to Illustrator, or something, an app that's close to Illustrator on the iPad for me to kind of make the conversion over, I think. But right now, if anyone's interested, I'm using a Wacom Cintiq. So that's how I'm drawing
next question.
directly on. Yeah. So I'll use I've got a Cintiq and a Intuos as well. Intuos. So I use both of those depending on what computer I'm using.
Yeah, cool. Some people want to see your dog before the end of the stream. Is he there?
All right. She's literally, she's just underneath me.
Okay. It's definitely very popular to see, like the pets of guests is definitely a highlight of this stream.
Yeah. She's always hanging around. She's such a kind of, she's such a people dog. So she just wants to be around me all the time. So yeah, I'll get her up later.
Awesome.
I'll just quickly talk about a technique I use with strokes while I'm doing it. So I've got this eyelid here and I just drew it with a pen tool. Maybe I'll go back and do it again so I can show people while I'm doing it. And then, adjust the stroke as I would normally to whatever thickness. And then I'll use this tool, which is called the width tool. I didn't know that till just now. And like use that to adjust the line to be thicker in the middle. Yeah, so that's really handy for stuff like eyelids, hair, or any kind of line that you want to sort of taper off a little bit thinner at the end. I'll either use that pen tool and do it that way, or sometimes I'll just use the brush tool and do it kind of more manually. But yeah, this is a good way to get it kind of consistent.
Yeah, that's cool. Great little tip. It happens a lot with streaming, like with shortcuts and tool names and things. People are showing the
Yeah.
process that they do, like, 10 hours a day for like their whole career, and they're like, actually, I have no idea what this tool's called.
Yeah, totally. In my head, it's just that symbol. Like,
Yeah,
because I guess I've never had to say it out loud. So.
exactly. Happens all the time. um, there's a lot of people loving your work. Like, tell Ellen that I adore her work. Love the look.
Oh,
Um,
thank you. Thanks.
and another question: do you remember what the first thing you drew was, or what kind of subjects and topics got you into drawing?
Um, I drew a lot of, you know what, when I was a little, I drew a lot of girls, and I feel like I still do that now, which is, which is interesting. What subjects got me into drawing? I don't know. Again, it's just something that I've literally always done, and I was really lucky that my parents were so encouraging of my creativity, as I think they saw from a young age that I was just really creative and like always in my own little world, little imagination world. And I think they were, they saw that and wanted to encourage it. So I don't ever remember like going, oh, I want to draw. I think it's just something I always did.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in terms of choosing it as a career, I sort of chose visual communication as a degree on a bit of a whim, because I was also a bit of an English nerd at school, and the description of the degree kind of sounded like it was a mix of kind of English subjects and art subjects, but I really didn't even know what a graphic designer was until I stepped into that degree, and I didn't know what typography was. I remember seeing the course there, and I was like, oh, that's so cute. They have like a whole subject on
letters.
on fonts. Yeah.
That's so funny. I had the same experience. I had no idea what graphic design was, ended up kind of just doing it. I remember typography. I remember the first time we did typography, I was thinking, why are we learning about like land and latitude and stuff? Because I thought it was topography.
Oh no.
Experience for ages. It was a really confusing first day.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I'm really glad I chose it, even though I didn't really know what I was getting into. Like, as soon as I started studying, I was like, this is incredible.
Yeah.
I loved learning about graphic design and the whole kind of visual world that exists that you don't even know about or kind of pay attention to unless you know about it. But yeah, I when I was at uni, I did really well in the kind of more conceptual subjects, and not so well in the kind of more graphic designy sort of branding or things like that kind of subjects. So that was kind of a sign to me that I should pursue something that's like a little bit more creative and something a bit more artistic. So that's kind of what kind of led me down the illustration route eventually.
I noticed then that when you were doing the pen tool, you're really loose at the beginning. You kind of like got it down really fast, and then you're kind of refining it and refining it. So you're not trying to get it kind of, you're not tracing your drawing, like your sketch, like you're like, I don't know, maybe you could take us through that. Like, it's just an interesting process to see.
Yeah, it is. I don't know why. I think I just feel more comfortable refining something rather than getting it perfect first go. And so I'll just get something down and not worry about it looking perfect, and then kind of fix it up. I think that's just, I don't know, that's just always how I've done it. And I think something that I tell people when I'm kind of telling them how I do something, or they ask me how I do something in Illustrator or whatever, it's like, I know I kind of don't do it the textbook way that you're properly supposed to do something, but I think when it comes to any kind of technology like Illustrator or any kind of software, I think it's important to view it as something like a paintbrush or anything like that. Like, it's about you finding your way of kind of creating, and the more I think unique that you can use the software, the more unique that your artwork is going to look.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, there was a your back wall. Is that hand painted or is that a wallpaper print?
No, that's hand painted, and actually that was a freehand job.
All right, so that was like a
So
little
yeah,
bit, yeah, a little bit more loose.
yeah, that was me getting a little bit wild.
Very cool. So you're probably having a lot of fun painting your new studio.
Yeah, yeah, it's been good. I mean, it's actually like it's an old shop, so it's got a full like shop window at the front. Um, and I'm still trying to figure out what I want to put in the window. But it's interesting, like people walking past and kind of peeking in and seeing what I'm doing all the time.
Yeah.
I'll be kind of just working away and I see all these people like literally sticking their heads in the window.
You could get maybe the one-way, is it one-way mirror? Yeah, one-way mirror, like thing on there so you can see out and they can't see in. I think, was it Snask that did something like that? I remember seeing, and
Oh, did they?
yeah, and it's basically like filmed people and like how they behave, like looking at the mirror, and like made like a compilation
Oh,
about
really?
it. And, like people picking their nose and like trying to look in the window and doing like dancing and all sorts of funny stuff.
Yeah,
That's one
that would be
idea.
so. Yeah, that would be so bad. I'm such a I'm so bad at like looking in sort of dark street windows, like checking that like I look okay and things as I walk past them, and like but I know that people in there would probably be seeing me and thinking I'm an idiot.
We all do that.
Yeah.
Some more questions, but yeah, again, just let me know if you. I'll just kind of keep going as they keep coming in because I think because when they all relate to like what we're doing, what you're doing.
Yeah, no, I'm totally fine with the questions coming in.
Awesome. And thanks, chat. These are some really, really good questions. Do you use the blob brush in Illustrator ever, like in conjunction with the main paintbrush tool?
No, I don't. And let me just remind myself what the blob brush is. How is it different? Oh,
You
I
just
see.
kind of like push it a little. You can kind of push it a bit more.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I don't, but I can see how that would actually be handy. So thanks for the tip, whoever put that on chat.
It was funny when
In fact,
you mentioned.
let's use it now.
Let's learn it together. It's funny when you were mentioning that I probably don't use the software in the textbook way because people that watch this stream a bit know that I say this all the time, but there is no textbook way. It's the live stream disclaimer. Every single person that comes on, because the apps have so many different ways they can be used. Everybody says that there is no textbook way. It's incredible like how different artists like use the software to create and be artistic and their workflow and all that sort of stuff that can't possibly be a right way to do things anymore.
Yeah, I think that's the great thing about it. And yeah, as I said, it is just like a tool. And it's really fun. And I've had fun over the years, like figuring out how to best use it and like how it works for me. It's just about having the confidence to kind of do it. I think people get nervous about doing it wrong.
Definitely.
Yeah. So now I'm going to do her face, like her face outline, and then be able to fill the color in a bit as well. So I might just talk about color for a sec.
Cool.
So when I kind of open up an artboard and start the digital part of the artwork, I'll just like kind of set out some squares. Like I'll go off my artboard a little bit and go, okay, like I want, a red, and then I'll literally just go through this color picker thing and go, oh, I think I want a pink, I think I want a blue, and pick it out that way. And then I'll make sure that it's all on global swatches.
Right.
So that if I do change my mind at some point, I can just, kind of do this and play around with it that way.
That's
Yeah,
great.
so that's
We don't see
that's a
global
good.
swatches as much as we should. You can really see the value of it in
Yeah,
in your work. Like if you've got something like this and you had to go through and change, all of your reds to a slightly darker red, it'd be really
yeah,
super time consuming. You'd probably never do it because you just move on to another project
yeah.
or something.
It's such a headache. And then when I do forget to kind of turn them on, and then I inevitably have to change it, I'm really kicking myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's good, and I do like to play around with the color as well at the end. Like maybe if I'm not quite happy with the piece, I'll be like, oh, like what if I change this around? Especially with commercial work as well. Like often, the client might have some color feedback, so it's just so much easier to have that set up at the beginning. It's just a good practice. But yeah, with color, I generally stick to very as little colors as possible. Like I like to reuse as many colors as I can within a palette because I just like that consistency. So I will use generally anywhere between like 4 and 6 colors, I would say on average.
Yeah.
And I always have like a contrasting stroke color as well. So it's kind of about picking the right colors that will contrast against the stroke. And sometimes I like to play with it. Like I think this blue, it's very, very clashy against the red, but I like playing with that idea as well of like clashing colors and then contrasting colors. So color is something that I find comes really naturally to me. Like I'm quite comfortable and confident knowing what colors I like and what I think looks good. So yeah, but I do have my go-to colors. Like pink and red are definitely something that I love creating things in pink and red because I think they are quite clashy. They're the kind of 2 colors that I don't know if everyone else was told this, but I definitely was told as a young girl to never wear them together, that they didn't go together. And I think that I like the idea that of kind of defying that a little bit. And
That's awesome.
I also use a lot of pink, as people might notice if they look on my feed or look at my work. I really love using pink, and my work is like definitely feminine, but I really like using pink because I think there's no other color that has such divisiveness and so many meanings loaded into it. Because it can be really feminine and can be really punk. It just has all these meanings within it, and I really like playing with that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, with color, yeah, you must like have like a lot of like a very strong natural eye. Like, do you ever go out and like look at resources of any kind or anything like that?
Yeah, sometimes I'll kind of I've got a little collection of kind of photos that I really like that kind of have a color palette that I'll pick out. So yeah, I do have that. I feel like I leaned on that a little bit more when I was starting out, but now I'm a bit more confident. But again, it's when I'm faced with a commercial brief that maybe is a little bit out of my color wheelhouse, like maybe it's got black in it, which I don't usually use, or maybe it needs to be like really complementary colors, not contrasting and things like that, then I'd look back on those kind of resources and use that to guide me a little bit. Because yeah, if it was up to me, I would kind of use pretty similar colors all the time. But it's often with commercial jobs, you're working within a brand palette or something. So that's definitely a challenge for me. But yeah, that's part of the job.
Yeah, that was my follow-up question. When you have a aesthetic and a palette, but you're working with commercial clients, you often it's part of the brief to use particular color palette, or maybe it's going to be printed or seen in a certain way that needs to match another aesthetic or part of a campaign or something. So how do you balance that? Do you ever have to kind of negotiate any of that sort of stuff with the brief, or?
I'm pretty lucky that most of the commercial jobs that I get, they're coming to me because they like my work, and color is such a a distinct part of my work that, usually clients like happy for me to do what I normally do. And, if I need to use different colors than I usually do, if I need to use like blacks or something that I don't usually use, then, I'm happy to do that. I'm a commercial artist. So, that is just this part of the job. But yeah, I don't think I've ever like turned down a job because I didn't like the colors.
What if it was black and white? What if it was straight up like black and white?
I have done that. I have done it before. Done it before. And it's kind of, when those things do come up, I sort of seeing it as a learning experience, because, I do love colors and I do love my certain kind of set of rules, as I said earlier, but that doesn't mean that I shouldn't be exploring or experimenting more. So if something comes up when it's like, okay, you have to use these colors that you hate using, then I kind of see it as an opportunity to learn.
Totally. I like it. We've got about 11 minutes until our kind of Q&A break as well. So chat.
Okay, cool.
Got more questions for that?
Timing.
Let us know.
I think I'll be able to kind of finish this girl off by the time that comes around. So I've gone a little bit off track with my layers here. Oh, that's why. So when I'm layering up for animation, it's kind of important just to know, just to kind of at least have an idea about what's going to be moving and what's going to be static, because the things that are moving are the things that need to be on separate layers.
Right. And for those just joining, like Ellen does a lot of animation, if you're not familiar with the work as well, and be sort of planning on bringing this into After Effects. So that's why, chatting about the layers in that way.
Yeah.
Was the third eye part of the sketch, or did that just kind of happen?
It was in the rough sketch. I just didn't draw it on the digital sketch.
Right. Thought it popped out of nowhere. I thought you just got like a bit of inspiration, like, you know what? We're doing three eyes.
No, but that was planned. I've lately been experimenting with kind of giving my characters a little bit more of a supernatural characteristics, or using kind of some animal characteristics and integrating it with humans, which has been really fun. Because that's the kind of work that the cartoons that I love do that. So that's just been something that I've been developing kind of behind the scenes, I think, a little bit, just being a little bit more fun and a little bit more supernatural with the characters, and like kind of giving them a story in my head makes it a little bit more fun to draw them.
That's it, right? Like, you have to have fun with it.
Yeah.
So these cartoons you used to like, or cartoons that you currently like?
A little bit of both.
Yeah?
Yeah. So I loved, Nickelodeon cartoons from like the 90s. Big influence. And kind of now, what are my recent ones? I love Rick and Morty.
Yeah, me too.
I love... there's this great cartoon on Netflix called Midnight Gospel.
I haven't seen that.
And it's like by the same animators as Adventure Time.
Oh, right.
And it's so bizarre and so weird. But it's just like, it's definitely not for everyone, but I think it's excellent. And it's just really like psychedelic and kind of interdimensional. It's really fun.
Oh, I'd have to check that one out. Johanna's saying no spoilers, please. Yeah, we won't spoil. But you are going to have to catch up on Rick and Morty at some stage, Johanna. So That can be part of your job today. Can be watch an episode of Rick and Morty. Can be research for the live streams.
So I'm gonna give my character a bit of a cool white blazer look to go with her cowboy hat.
Nice. And I noticed like with the eyes, you created one eye and then you flipped it and you added the light source to kind of differentiate. I noticed then with the collar, you could have created one and then transformed and flipped it, but you chose to redo it. Is that because you're like going fast, or do you like, why would you do it sometimes and not other times?
I think for some things, like, you know, with an eye, it's always going to be, you know, 3 circles.
Right.
There's no kind of real difference there, but I guess, maybe a subtle difference in the collar is a little bit more realistic. I guess it's the same with the hair, like the hair isn't symmetrical.
Right.
So yeah, it kind of depends what it is, what we're working with. So here we go. Here's another use of the width tool. I like using it for like little creases in clothing and things like that.
That's cool.
I think that just looks a little bit more finished, maybe. Yeah. All right, how are we going for time?
About 5 minutes to Q&A. We can do it now, or it's entirely up to you. It's a bit of a guide for us.
Well, I'm almost finished, so let me just do this
cool.
other shoulder, and then we can do the Q&A.
Perfect. You've got incredible timing.
I know, look at that.
So the timer, everybody, isn't for the end, it's for our halfway break. So if you're just joining us, jump into behance.net/live. If you have a question for Ellen, we're taking questions in about 5 minutes. And so if you've got any meaning of life questions, we call it, career style questions, now's the time. Because when we jump into the second half, we can often, it just goes so fast. So we like to make sure that we have a little bit of a break in the middle to ask some of those poignant questions. So yeah, jump over, say hello. It's always good to see new faces in chat. And I can see some questions have come through as well, so don't worry, we're going to get to some of those.
Awesome. So I'll probably, you know, if this was me on a normal day, I would spend like a lot more time going through each little element and sort of making sure it all looks perfect. But, you know, for the points of this this live stream, I'm pretty happy with that. And then, you know, usually at the end, I end up thickening the lines. I like to push them to be as thick as possible without kind of looking ridiculous. So, yeah.
Right. So you kind of push them too far, and then you sometimes might go back one or two. Because is that like your process?
Yeah. Because I feel like if you go too much, it's like, oh, that's too thick.
Right.
So, yeah, it's just about making them as thick as I can without it kind of looking weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think she's pretty good.
Is this like someone you know, or have you drawn so many figures that they'll kind of blend together and you just draw it from memory, or?
I kind of just draw it from memory, or I will use. I definitely use myself as a model. So I'll take a photo of myself if I want a certain expression, like if I want someone to look really sad or angry or something, I'll take a photo of myself. My photo booth on my computer is like ridiculous. It's just all these selfies of me with different expressions.
That's so good.
Yeah. And same with hands. I will definitely use photos for that as well. Sorry, it's so hard to name layers and talk at the same
Yeah,
time.
totally. I know it's super difficult, isn't it?
I feel like I've like definitely made some typos in here, but that's okay. As long as it makes sense to me. Fine.
Cool. Just having a look at all these questions that you guys have sent through. Some great questions here.
Cool. So I think that's but anyway, I'm happy to jump into questions when you are. Should I jump back over to the?
Yeah, let's jump back over to our screen. So I'll do that now. So yeah, so you're free to jump over to our little chat screen as we go.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool. It's like a good pens down break for you as well. Like stretch.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. So I'm jumping in with my question first because you just kind of casually mentioned, oh yeah, like I went over and did this work and this project with Facebook and Instagram, and then we kind of moved on real quick. So can you tell us more about that? Like that's like, is that like Mecca to like an Illustrator that is popular on Instagram? Like what was that experience? What happened there and how did that work?
Yeah. So yeah, it's been a real highlight of my career and my life to work with them. It was a collaboration between myself and Julia McGoran, or Gigi McG, as she's known on Instagram. And so she's a photographer and a really good friend of mine. And last year we collaborated together with Jacky Winter as well for Facebook's cover photo. And then from there, they really liked what we did. And so they flew us over to New York last year to create this kind of interactive mural, essentially, in their New York office. And they were, again, really happy with what we did there. So earlier this year, just in March, we went over to San Francisco and did a different installation in the head office in Silicon Valley. So it was kind of this room, wall, like kind of interactive wall/room, which was all about stories. And you could walk in, press buttons, and all these like stickers fly out, and you can take all these photos. And
Wow.
we collaborated with this kind of fabrication company. I'm going to put more videos and stuff of it on my Instagram because it's kind of hard to explain just using a static photo or just explaining it. But yeah, it was a extremely big project and really ambitious. But the team at Facebook and Instagram, they're so amazing. They're so lovely. And they really put all their faith in us, and it was incredible. And we got to go over there and hang out and get shown around San Francisco and
Wow.
yeah, hang out in Silicon Valley. And it was incredible.
That's pretty amazing. Yeah, I've seen some of the pictures in your feed and just kind of popped up, and it's like you're at Instagram and then at Facebook and stuff. And yeah, like it just seems like an amazing opportunity and super cool. So onto the chat questions. There's a question: can you please ask Ellen how she keeps the picture not overcomplicated the shapes in the style, so it's not flat but still has depth? So yeah, I guess like how do you make sure that it's not like, although it's 2D, it doesn't look flat, like it looks like it has depth?
Yeah, I think I always try and make sure that I'm not, the view of the picture isn't like dead on straight. So if I was drawing a box, it wouldn't just be like 4 lines. I would offset it somehow, and maybe you can see the top, maybe you can see a little bit of the side. But I also, and actually the background of this call, you can kind of see a sort of I guess, isometric view of the way I would draw things. I also, I don't use shading a whole lot. I might occasionally on a drawing here and there, but generally I don't. So I think that the fact that I don't use kind of shading, but I do use different kind of viewpoints makes it look dimensional, but not overly complicated, so it still looks flat, but it's not flat. And I think that comes back to the sort of cartoon influence. If you look at early cartoons like The Simpsons or anything in the 90s, like there's not a whole lot of shading going on, and so I think I just have picked that up from that. And the fact that I like using so few colors as well. And I think I just like to keep things. I'd like to pick and choose what details I include in things, and I think that comes back to how can I make this look as visually appealing and as like kind of cute as possible. So when I'm drawing something, I'll slightly exaggerate some of the proportions, some of the curves and things like that, for it to be like that kind of Michelin Man-y kind of look.
Back to the Michelin Man. I love it.
Yeah. That's the best way I can explain it. Yeah. So I hope that answers that question.
Yeah, that's awesome. What's another question? What's the most challenging part of a character to draw?
I think I definitely find bodies, any kind of like sort of odd or unusual position of the body, like if someone's sitting and their legs are going a certain way, and just getting that looking right is quite hard, because you do something a little bit off and the whole thing can look really off. So yeah, I'm trying to get better at that, kind of doing different positions. But yeah, characters are difficult, and I was really not confident when I first started it. And even when I was like, for my first year of illustrating, I really didn't draw people. And now I love doing it, but it just takes a lot of practice and a lot of confidence to get to know how you want to draw, like what style you want to draw things in. It just takes trial and error.
Yeah, awesome. Some questions about your murals were coming up, so I'll pick one. You have pics on your Insta doing a mural. Have you done many murals? Like, are they a really fun thing for you to do, or is it more of a difficult thing?
It's difficult, but it is fun, so it's both.
Both.
Yeah, I love doing murals. I've been doing it for the last 3 years. I've been an illustrator for 5 years, so there came a point where I was like, I want to try this out. I was sharing a studio with an artist called Eliza Sfakulis, who's also represented by Jacky Winter, and she's a really excellent painter, and she kind of taught me, the basics of how to paint a mural. And I painted a personal one in that studio I was sharing with her. So I just started off practicing my own personal pieces. And since then, I've probably done between 10 to 15.
Quite a lot.
Some of them paid, and some of them have been personal, maybe half and a half personal, half commercial. But I had a show last year, an exhibition in December, where it was almost all painting and only a little bit of digital work, because I really do enjoy doing it. I really do enjoy getting off the computer and creating something large scale.
That's a great segue, because one of my questions was about your solo show that you did. And can you tell us about that? Because was that like your first show like this?
So it's my second solo show, but It was my first one doing large scale pieces. So it was called Vicious Cycles, and it was kind of just an extended metaphor about laundry, and relating that back to it was called Vicious Cycles Laundrette, actually was the full name. So it was about the kind of vicious cycles that we get into in our behaviors and sort of self-destructive patterns. But dressing that negative theme up in the metaphor of laundry.
Yeah.
So I did large scale like polystyrene sculptures that I'd painted, huge detergent bottles and big laundry powder boxes and things like that. So it was kind of about creating installations and having some fun, making these big pieces. So that opened in December last year. It was really fun. So I think I'm going to try and do an exhibition every 2 years. So 2021 will be my next one.
That's cool. As you were saying that, I was thinking, I wonder if you're going to say every year, and I'm like, oh, that would be so much work. But every 2 years
It's
sounds a
too,
little
it's
bit
so
more
much
like
work.
manageable. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a crazy amount of like physical and emotional labor that I just can't put myself through every year.
Yeah, good plan. I really like it. Mark Conlon says he loves the new place. Mark Conlon, fantastic
Oh,
illustrator in the chat. Good to see you, Mark.
thanks, Mark.
Do you have any least favorite colors? Eliza's asked in chat.
I don't. I really struggle with a cool red, like a red that has a little bit of. That's so specific. A red that has a little bit of blue in it. I really don't like it. Whereas a warm red, excellent.
Right.
Yeah, I struggle with like kind of darker purples, and yeah, anything that's straight, like 100% black or close to that as well. I find it hard to match colors with that work nicely, just in my style. It's something I've always struggled with.
Yeah, cool. I like this question coming up. Do you think living in Melbourne has influenced your drawing style?
I don't know. I don't think so. I can't. When I look at my work, I don't think like, oh, that's Melbourne. Far from it, really.
Yeah.
But I am like surrounded by incredibly creative and amazing people here, so that inspires me in other ways, and definitely gives me some confidence, and the sense of community.
Yeah. Yep. Awesome. So maybe one or two more questions and we'll jump back in. So Jeffrey's asking, do you sketch daily, like keep an idea journal? Which is a great question because we saw that you do hand sketch quite a lot, and then bring your sketches in. So yeah, do you sketch daily or?
Yeah,
Yep.
I do.
Yep, I do. I sketch all the time. Awesome.
It's yeah, I'm doing it all the time. It's a really helpful practice to get into. Really good as any kind of creative person. Even if you're not good at drawing, sketching is such a good way to keep the ideas flowing, keep a record of your ideas as well. Like often I'll sketch something dumb. Like, I don't know if you remember the cowgirl, space cowgirl from my Instagram that I showed earlier. Like that was just a dumb sketch that I did offhand, and then I turned it into a piece. So yeah, I'm sketching all the time. I think I'm wanting to, because kind of in my new studio, I've got a bit of a setup where I could do like recordings of my sketches, like when you kind of set up a camera,
like an over the shoulder camera, like showing you sketching, like live on Instagram or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm kind of wanting to start doing that as well, because that'll encourage me even more to do it. And kind of share it, because it's a really fun process.
That's awesome. There was another question. Has any of your art been for projection onto surfaces like walls or sides of buildings, or like has any of your? That's a very specific question.
As in like the kind of animation projections and things like that.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
I'm guessing. I haven't done that, but I would really love to, because I think that would be really fun, and it would kind of integrate my animation work with my installation work, which is something that I would like to do.
Yeah, cool. And then there was a question around from Eva, do you do your own animation? And we'll use that as our segue into part 2.
Perfect. Yes, I do my own animation. So I'm going to transition over to my screen now, and I will show you exactly how I do it.
Awesome. Cool.
So full disclosure, I did already draw this girl out, layer her up. So instead of doing the kind of boring process of creating a file and blah blah blah, I'm just going to use a file I prepared earlier to import into After Effects. So let's get that started.
Awesome. And thanks for the questions, everyone. Some great questions today. It's always good when chat's on fire with the questions.
Yeah, thank you. They've been really good. So
So this is a single file that you prepared earlier, so that we're not going through a lot of the manual kind of stuff here. And you're opening a Photoshop file, an Illustrator file into After Effects. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, you bring the Illustrator file. So this is just a layered Illustrator file. So you can see that little Illustrator icon right there. So these are all the layers from that Illustrator file. So just basically exactly what I just did, except it was just going to be saved as a separate file. So if we go back to this, so this is all the little illustrations from that that file that I've already previously animated. So I can show you that now. So each of these animations are either on a 2-second or a 4-second loop, because my whole animation, if you can see down here, it goes for 4 seconds and then it starts over again. So the key to doing looping animation, make them as short and simple as possible. And so I try to keep it, 6 seconds maximum. But if you can keep it under than that, that's even better. So each of these is its own little file. So for example, if we go into this one, this is just that cross fingers animation by itself. And that's just 2 seconds, like super simple. I like to keep my animations, relatively simple as possible, because I think, it's just more visually effective if you've got lots of stuff going on, if each individual thing is quick and short and easy to visually digest, because there's so much to look at. So yeah, we've got, crossed fingers, sort of tightening, like little things coming out of it, match revolving, 4-leaf clovers sort of waving around, etc., etc. So what we need to do is fill up this little gap here with this girl being animated. So the first thing that I do when I bring in a file into After Effects is I set out what everything is attached to it. So it's kind of like rigging up, a skeleton. So you need to know that, like, if the face moves, we want the hair to move as well. So basically everything is going to be moving when the face moves, and then the face is going to move when the neck moves. So that's what this thing does. It like tells the program, like, when this thing moves, that thing moves.
Right.
So we can do that. So, for example, I will show you what that does. So right now, the head moves and everything else moves.
Right.
But to make it a bit more natural, you want the anchor point to come down here a little bit, because that's where, if you're moving your neck, it's sort of coming from the neck, moving your head. So it sort of more looks like that.
Right. So it's good. Yeah, that's cool. Like thinking about it like as a skeleton, and like where would they turn their head, and thinking about it in that way.
Yeah. So what I want to get this girl to be doing is sort of look like she's walking. So when you're walking, you kind of bob up and down.
Right.
So what I'm going to do is just at 1 second, she's going to come down a little bit.
So you kind of already obviously have an idea of what you want the animation to be. Which I may have missed it. Sorry. Was she like kind of walking forward?
Yeah. So I wanted to look like she's kind of walking forward, and she's going to look side to side and blink, just to kind of look like she's sort of slowly walking around.
All in 4 seconds.
Yeah. It's just, a subtle movement can give the impression of anything you kind of want. So we can already see, like, in our imagine fill in the gaps. Like, she's bobbing up and down, but we can imagine that the bottom of her body is walking.
Right.
So I would say that maybe that's a little bit too bobby, perhaps. So I might make her a little bit less bouncy. Yeah.
I really like that idea that your mind like fills in the blanks there.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is with animation, it's kind of like it is kind of like the sort of master illusion, really, because it's all kind of about knowing what the brain can fill in, because you can't like animate every single thing that's happening. And if you look at a animated TV show or something, like they do try and cut corners as much as they can, because animation is hard and labor. So yeah, it's kind of about knowing. So as she comes down, I kind of wanted to move her head a little bit side to side, because I think that gives a bit more of like a natural sort of look. You kind of move your head a little bit when you walk. Oh, there's Maggie.
There's Maggie.
Can you hear her?
Yeah.
She's barking at some guys outside.
Maggie's a Frenchie, right?
Yes, she is a Frenchie. She's just, she's the friendliest dog, but she's so stereotypical, as in like she hates the postman. And I don't know why, I don't know why. She loves everyone else but the postman. And I'm just like, yeah, be more stereotypical. Yeah, so we can already see like just those two movements, like just sort of rotating her head side to side and bobbing up and down. We can already get a sense that, yeah, she's walking. I might get her to rotate a little bit less. Yeah. And you can I can spend, you can spend a long time doing the little details. Like, I don't know if I'll have time to do this or not, but I would love to be, animating the hair. So the hair is bouncing up and down as well. And maybe the hat moves a little bit, maybe the sunglasses move, but we'll see what we have time for. What I do want to show you is the eyes moving and the eyes blinking. So let's get into that. So,
Jeffrey was asking, do you use any plugins for After Effects?
I do. I use one called Overlord. So Overlord, so that's like, I think it costs a little bit of money, but it's it kind of talks between Illustrator and After Effects. So if you'd rather just, instead of like saving a file and layering it all up like I have here, you can kind of directly push the files from Illustrator to After Effects, and they'll retain their like live, what do you call it when you still have the vector points and things like that.
Right.
So I will use that sometimes. With this animation, there's not a whole lot that I need to do with the strokes, so I'm happy just to use it as is, because like right now this is just it's basically just it's not like a live sort of layer. It's just it's basically just like a transparent PNG.
Right.
But if I do change my mind, like if I'm doing the hair and I want to have live vector points, I can just do this create shapes from vector layer, and then you can adjust the vector points here. So you can animate that way as well.
Cool.
Hopefully that makmakes sense.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And keep the questions coming, everybody. I know After Effects is often the app that people fear the most.
Yeah. Sorry, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you can definitely hear the background. Someone decided to...
Yeah. Yeah, the guys just decided to do a bit of construction work right outside my door.
Yeah,
So
it's all good.
I'm
It's
really
all good.
sorry about that.
No, don't worry about it. It happens so often. Where we'll be getting ready for a live stream here, and I'll just see like all these people in high vis, like getting equipment out the front, like getting ready to start right on 9 o'clock.
Yeah,
Happens all the time.
Yeah. You always have great timing.
Yeah.
So here, like, I've got the eyes on one layer, and you can see, like, just by adjusting the position, I can make them go left and right.
Mm.
So they're going to start in the middle. And then at 1 second, they're going to look left. And then maybe at 3 seconds, they'll look right. And then at 4 seconds, they're going to start back where they started.
Cool.
But yeah, in terms of After Effects, it is daunting to open it up and see and try and like kind of take a stab at it if you've never done it before. But I think, you know, if you just look up a few basic tutorials and kind of work your head around it, once you know the basics, you can do so much with it. Like, you can do so much with After Effects that, you know, no matter what your style is or what you want to achieve, it just really is a very versatile program. And I know I sound like I'm advertising Adobe, but I'm not. I really just think it's good. So yeah, you don't need to know a whole lot to do a lot. Like, I know I've been doing this for a long time, and I barely scratched the surface, but I can, you know, I can do it. And I think for me, you know, as I was saying, as we were talking about before, it's just kind of like Illustrator. You work out the way that it works for you. You work out your own style, and yeah, it's a lot of fun. I think animation is just like, you know, it's absolute magic. Like, you can tell stories, you can do so much with it. Okay, so now we've got, whoops. I think the guy might have stopped outside, which is good. So yeah, now I can kind of get a sense of this kind of character.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so now I'll show you a kind of quick trick to make it look like the character's blinking. So we've got our eyelash, and the way we can make it look like she's blinking is to actually just use the scale tool. So we just need to unlink these so that they're, if they're linked up, then it will just scale up and down uniformly. But if we unlink them, you can scale it either horizontally or vertically, I guess.
Right. And you kind of click and drag it left to right, if I remember. Is that right? That's what you're doing?
Yeah, you can drag it left to right, or you can input the numbers if you want. But I just like to drag it left and right just so I can eyeball it.
Eyeball the eyeballs.
Yes, exactly. And then again, it's about just putting the anchor point in the right position. So, oops. So I just put the anchor point down here, and then do that. And if we do it quick enough, it looks like she's blinking. And it's not like the best animation. Like if I was doing this, if I really wanted to do this properly, I would do the eyelashes separate so they don't kind of warp in that way. But I think it like gives a good enough impression, especially because, you know, blinking is quite quick.
Yeah.
That, you know, can't notice.
Yeah, totally. And especially because it's going to be part of like, you know, this one's going to be part of like a mosaic of other animations. There's going to be so much going on.
Yeah, and it's so easy to get like distracted and sort of obsess over these details, but you've also got to know like, yeah, people don't kind of notice these little things, it's just you. So then we've got to mask out the eyeball, obviously. So as she blinks, you can't see the eyeball anymore, is the idea.
I thought you were gonna leave that in.
I mean, I guess it does give that kind of alien vibe.
So it's just a quick little mask that you did.
Yeah, so you just draw with a pen tool a shape, and then you can choose if you want to like take it away or subtract it or add it. And then just like any other animation, oops, just do this. So you're essentially just drawing out where you want it to be masked out. So you can see the path moving there. And then if I click off that so you can't see that anymore, so you can get a sense of what it looks like without that. You can see, yeah, there we go.
And do you ever catch yourself like spending a lot of time on like a very small detail? Like, oh my God, I've just spent like a big chunk of time on this, and if I like, and then realize like kind of you have to speed back up, or you have to see the big picture, so to speak.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's hard with animation though, because it's often the small details that that will make it look right or wrong. Like you can do animation, you can animate things pretty, you know, things can easily look off, you know. So right. Yeah, it's about knowing what details you do need to labor over, and what details no one's gonna, you know, notice. So you know, from back here, like that looks fine to me, you know. Yeah. And
do you find that you want to zoom out and watch it a couple of times, kind of get the feel?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and you can see like along the bottom, it shows you, you know, your timeline along the way. Like, so if I'm like, oh, that like little section between, you know, 1.5 seconds and 2 seconds doesn't look right, I can like stop it there, just by pressing the space button, and then go, all right, what's going on there? What's looking weird there? And like go in and fix it up. Yeah. Yeah,
cool. Just had a question. What kind of Mac are you using? After Effects is running really well. Well, you're not using a Mac, are you?
No, I am.
Oh, you are?
I'm using the Cintiq, and I'm using an iMac.
Ah, okay, right.
Which is, if you're interested, a Retina 5K 27 inch 2019. I think I upgraded something here, which I can't remember what, but I remember, you know, in previous, in my last iMac, I had to buy extra RAM because of After Effects. So I think I went with the better option for that reason, because yeah, it's it can easily slow down, and you know, when I would do animation work on my laptop, it just sounds like it's about to take off. Like it just really doesn't handle it very well. So.
Yeah, I've never regretted buying more RAM.
Exactly. Yeah. It's definitely the way to go. So, but,
So, we've got about 30 minutes left.
okay, cool.
And we got heaps of questions as well. So we've got lots of time, lots of questions, all sorts of stuff.
Okay, great. Well, keep the questions coming because I'm just going to keep I'm just going to do the eyelash on the other side, which we've already seen. So
cool. Gigi in chat is asking, how would she have done the hair animation?
I will show you that in a sec.
Might have time for that. That's cool. I wonder if Gigi is the photographer.
Yeah.
Gigi.
If it is, hello.
Maybe. Maybe.
And I'm seeing her later today, so I'll see you then.
We'll find out.
Yeah. I haven't got back to her text, so maybe that's why she's trying to remind me.
Jumping in, she's like, where are you? What's going on? I can see you. Yeah. There was a question from Jeffrey. Sorry, I missed this originally. So does Ellen plan out her animations in Illustrator, like storyboard it out, so she has all the art frames?
So I do storyboards like if I have a professional, if I have an animation brief and it's sort of more of a, like maybe it's a 30-second animation or something like that, then I do storyboard it out so they can see sort of what they're getting. But I don't storyboard for something like this because I don't really need to, and there's such simple animations that there's not much point. But I also because I work in After Effects, I don't do any frame by frame animation, which I think is more what storyboarders need to do that for. Yeah, which I don't do.
That's not the photographer Gigi in the chat, so yeah, you're gonna have to get back to her text at some point.
Oh no.
Could have been a two birds with one stone thing. We'll just pass on all your messages to everybody you know through the live stream. Just get them to jump in chat. You mentioned after using, obviously we're using After Effects now. Is it your primary animation, or have you ever tried any other programs like Animate CC? There's a question from Eva a while ago that I missed.
Okay. I haven't used Animate CC, but I'm definitely keen to give it a go, actually, because I've heard good things about it. And other than that, no. I do use I did learn in Flash as well, but that isn't my bag of potato chips. So yeah,
good old Flash.
Yeah, it was good. It was actually kind of fun, but it's kind of I don't think it's very relevant these days.
No, I think we've all moved on.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Well, if you want to feel like you wasted that time, I learnt Director. I don't know if you ever learnt that.
I don't know what that is.
So yeah, no one does. Director was everyone was learning Flash, and I was like, well, everyone knows Flash, so I'm going to learn this other cool program called Director. And the way it was explained to me was that, well, this is the program that a lot of people will use when they're creating. Like, when you plug a DVD in and you get a menu when DVDs were a thing? It will be the program of choice to create that.
So specific.
It's so specific. And I did like my major work in a program that no longer exists.
Oh, no.
Good times.
Yeah.
But you learn about animation, you learn about pace, you learn about like all those things at the same time, regardless of the program, right? So hopefully not all that time is lost.
Yeah, that was a thing that Flash taught me, actually, was like, or that subject, I should say, which was like the fundamentals of animation. So yeah, about pace and about like how you add character to things and just all those principles that are really handy to know. So I'm going to animate the hair now. So what I kind of just want is something really subtle. I just want it to like sort of bounce as she kind of bounces up and down. So really I just want the bottoms of the hair to kind of go like, up and down. So I've already, as I showed you before, I've already sort of converted this to a vector shape. So my my Bezier points from Illustrator are already like kind of loaded into it, which is really good. And so you can go to the keyframe that you want. So I might go, when is she? Down here, so 104. And just highlight the points that I want to move. And then just move them down a little bit. And then maybe adjust things. Maybe this one kind of comes out a little bit. Maybe this moves. So you can animate each individual point, which is fun. So you can do a lot with this kind of feature. Because this animation only goes for 4 seconds and it's just like sort of 2 repeated movements over and over, it's pretty, it's so simple. Like, so I can take my time kind of making it look the way that I want it to. Yeah. Something that I kind of struggle with, but it's an important sort of principle of animation, is like, you know, her hair's going to bounce, but it's not going to bounce exactly at the point she's at the bottom point. It's going to like kind of take a while to come back up.
Right.
So
it's not going to bounce back up in the same way that it would bounce. It would bounce down.
Yeah. So she like kind of hits the bottom of the frame at 1, but I would probably keep the bounce at, you know, 8 frames afterwards, and then it's going to bounce up. And I'm just going to pick these points up. I like this music going, Flynn.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it's good.
It's just chill hop in the background. It's like a giant, it's just like a giant like archive of all of the songs. So it's kind of like hit and miss. And one of these days I'm going to have to like go through and like listen to every track and work out which is the best for streaming. So I got Johanna messaging me every now and then when she doesn't like a song, and we just change it up.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So you can thank Johanna for being like the hovering art director DJ for the live streams. She doesn't like it. She's like, oh.
Yeah, they're back.
They're back.
Yeah.
Oh.
It sounds like they're like drilling in directly to my studio, which is fun.
I'll just turn your microphone down just a little bit, just to protect everyone's ears for a moment, because you never know with.
Sorry, oh my god.
Oh no, it happens. There's nothing you can do about it. Yeah, if it's too loud, guys, we'll bring it back. So, with construction workers, sometimes they'll work for like a minute and then they'll take a half-an-hour break anyway. So hopefully they're of the lazier persuasion. But we can still see the screen and everything, still see what you're doing.
Good. So yeah, you can kind of see what I'm doing here, hopefully, like what I'm trying to kind of get at.
So yeah, we'll get to your questions in a bit when Ellen has more of an opportunity to answer. But for now, we can watch you work.
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah.
See, look, they've stopped already. Maybe check that out.
Yeah, it seems like they're just kind of doing some light scraping now.
Right.
So.
Okay, cool. All right, well, I brought you back.
All right, great.
Show in chat. I like it. It sounds apocalyptic. That's not what we need for 2020. No more of that.
True. So I might
Oh yeah, no, you
oh,
go.
sorry.
No, you go ahead.
I might do some little sparkles in the background.
Oh, cool.
So I'll show you how to do that. So let me just explain what I'm doing. So I'm bringing up it's called a solid. So that's just like a solid layer of color, and I want it to be white. So I've got white here. And then I'm going to just because I'm just going to do this really quickly, and I'm pretty confident drawing a sparkle, I'm just going to do it straight with the pen tool. Mm-hmm. So the pen tool is okay in After Effects. It doesn't have all the kind of ease of use. It's not as easy to use, I find, as in Illustrator. But it's for things like, you know, a little sparkle. It's good. Oh, they're back.
They might be back. All right.
Yep.
So I'll turn you down just a little bit as well as we watch you make the sparkles.
Yep, sure.
It's funny, about an hour ago, the leaf blower started up in the apartment complex near me as well. So I spent the first half lowering my levels quite a lot as we're talking. But you don't have that control on that side, so I have to bring you all the way down. But yeah, there's some great questions coming through, guys. So we'll try to get to all of them. There's quite a few, and we're getting to that point where we're starting to watch the timer. We're starting to run out of time. I think it's, let me have a look. It's about 20 minutes left as we go. If it's not Australian internet causing troubles, it's Australian construction workers.
So can you hear me now?
Yeah, I brought it back. We got you back.
Cool. So I'll just show you this little trick in After Effects. So this little sparkle is just doing something really simple. It's just getting big and getting small. Mm-hmm. But I kind of wanted to give it a little bit more pizzazz, if you will. So, you know, just normally it just goes like this. But I kind of wanted to be like a slow build up and then stays big for a little bit and then quickly goes back down. So the way I can do that is called easing. So you press this thing called Easy Ease, and then these little icons turn into this little shape. And then this is like the curve of motion, essentially. So we're looking at it going small, then big, then small. And because I want it to take a little bit of extra time getting big, I adjust these curves and make it a little bit flatter at the top. So now you can see that difference. It's like, yeah, just kind of, it gives the animation a little bit more character. So I use this a lot. I haven't used it at all for the girl because she's kind of walking slowly. She doesn't need any kind of jauntiness.
Right.
But it's a good way to give it a bit of extra character to a movement. So if you were animate, and one of the things I learned when I was learning how to animate is how to animate a ball bouncing. Because when a ball bounces, it just doesn't go straight up and down uniformly. It takes longer at the top. So you kind of learn those principles of how to know, how to animate things like that naturally. Because if you do it wrong, it's, you can really tell. So I'm going to throw a few of these sparkles around, as I like to do. So I'm going to recompose this and call it sparkle. This just means I can easily duplicate it a bunch of times. Actually, let me do that again. Click this thing. Okay, I don't know if people in the watching have any experience with After Effects or a little or no experience, but hopefully it's like useful information.
Oh, definitely. No, I think I think a lot of people in chat, like After Effects seems to be, like as I said before, kind of the one like final frontier. I think for a lot of people, I think a lot of the navigation and like the menus and the way it works can be a bit of a I guess it's like it's like a bit of a steep learning curve at the beginning, or it has a perceived steep learning curve, but it actually doesn't once you get involved, once you get in there.
It's kind of like any program, like it's always going to seem intimidating at first. But I think hopefully this encourages people to give it a go. And I think, if nothing, if you are an illustrator who's kind of starting their career out or anything like that, knowing this skill helped me so much when I was starting out, because animation is huge. Like people love using illustrators who also know how to animate. It's just such a really it's a niche skill, and when I do, I'll often get asked to do editorial work and things like that have a animated element to it.
Right.
So I just find that if you're looking to kind of maybe break your way into doing illustration professionally, it's a really worthwhile kind of having a go at it. A lot of people will use they do kind of Photoshop, so they'll do layer by layer animation that way, which can produce really nice results as well, but it doesn't have the kind of full capabilities that doing it in animation software does.
Yeah.
But you could animate sparkles for sure in Photoshop, something like that.
Sparkle capable.
Yeah. So I think she's looking pretty good. And I don't know why my mouse is like stuck on the hand for some reason. I feel like I can't click on anything else.
Huh.
Oh, it's this thing. God, I'm an idiot. I'm sorry for anyone who was like yelling at the screen for all that whole time. Alrighty.
Imagine how much that stuff must happen all the time to us when we're not streaming out, and you just kind of move on and don't even think about it. But if you're streaming out, you're like, wait, why is this happening? Oh yeah, okay. Happens all the time.
Yeah. So we can just pop the girl in and she'll just fit right there. We're like pretty much done, so we've got ages for questions.
Okay, cool. I've got lots of questions. So that's great.
Cool. So I can also, before we do that, I can quickly go into these other animations and just show.
That would be great. Let's check them out.
Well, yeah. So this is our like completed thing. And it goes for 4 seconds. So if I was rendering this out, I'd render it into an MP4 for Instagram or something like that. And I would create a GIF using, I kind of export every frame as a PNG, and then I create a GIF in Photoshop. Although I do know there is some kind of plugin that you can do it from After Effects, but I haven't got that working yet. All right, so let me just quickly show you all these little animations as well. So this is the match.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so it's like just appearing to rotate, but what that is just like a 1 second.
Yeah, it's amazing what you can do with 1 second of animation. It's just looping. Yeah. So it's just that line's moving and this line's moving. That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
Maybe while we're talking about this, we might just answer this other question. Well, I'll ask this question, you get to answer it. Do you ever use live trace with satisfactory results, like in there using air quotes in Illustrator, or do you trace all your drawings? They missed the beginning of the show when we were showing when we were showing the Illustrator side of things.
Yeah. So no, I've never produced satisfactory results with live trace.
Yeah.
I know there is a way because I know, and I hope I'm not giving away any trade secrets here, but I know the letterettes girls use live trace because they're amazing, amazing letterers, so they can draw something on paper and then they don't need to fix it up on the computer. And they have some kind of special technique of doing it in live trace and getting really good results. So
wow.
I'm sure there are certain settings you can do it in. Yeah, but for me, I really loosely sketch, and I kind of refine everything in Illustrator anyway.
Cool.
Yeah, so this guy's just rotating, really simple, just one full rotation per 4 seconds.
Yeah. And how did you do the rotation? Are you changing it frame by frame, or is there a setting that you can change?
Yeah, just under every layer, there's a transform. There's transform options. So that's your anchor point, position, scale, and rotation.
Right.
So for my rotation, I've got one frame here, one keyframe here that's set at 0 times 0. So that's just what it is at default. And then at 4 seconds, I have it. I can't. Let's move that bit. I just have 1 times 0, so, or you can go 360. So it's just setting the first frame at 0 and the last frame at 360, and then After Effects essentially does the rest and fills in those gaps.
It's super smooth.
Yeah.
There was a great question, which is more of a personal question, but I think it's good at the end as we're kind of finishing up. Tamara was asking, has lockdown made you feel more or less inspired?
It's actually both. Like when I first, because I actually had to go into full lockdown when I came back from America. I had to go 14 days without leaving the house.
Right.
So that was really hard, and I felt extremely uninspired then. But since then, because it's been a really quiet time work-wise for me, like the quietest, it's been in 5 years of being an illustrator. I've really had time to play around and be creative. So in that way, it's been amazing. So yeah, I'm definitely, I've come around to feeling extremely inspired at the moment. Yeah, I think, you just need to reset sometimes, and the world kind of forced a lot of us to do it. So here we are.
That's true.
Feeling, yeah. And I think, everyone was like, the world's going to change, after this, and it looks like it is. And I think, everything that's happening is, I think is proving that, the world's changing for the better out of all of this. So, yeah, feeling very inspired.
Cool.
So I've got the little clicky fingers here, which I showed earlier. So the layers here are just separated into the front finger and the hand and the back finger. So those fingers just slightly rotate and move together, back out, and the hand moves. So that's again something where I've just like it's called parenting, where you sort of determine what when the hand moves and the fingers will move as well. And then just like it's fun to just like put in little lines to indicate movement.
Yeah.
So I'll often do that kind of thing because it just gives it a lot of character and a lot of fun for such a simple thing.
It's like very cartoony, like we were talking really
Yeah.
early on. We were talking about inspirations from like cartoons and animated, like cartoons and things like that. And then that's like very much like cross between like comic book, it's like an animated comic book, I guess, that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's kind of how I look at it as well. And then this guy is just one clover that I've just duplicated a bunch of times, which is something I'll do quite often in my animations for patterns. I'll just kind of do one and I'll duplicate it a bunch of times and loop it around. So that's that one, and just separating each little leaf out, and they all kind of move independently.
Yeah, cool. So would you animate one and then just duplicate it, and then you kind of offset it a bit? Like they're not all moving at the exact same rate. They're kind of offset.
Yeah, so I like just to create a bit of interest, and to give the illusion that, you know, they're all kind of moving at a different rate. I will offset the timing, but it's still just one animation but I'll just like start them at different times essentially. And then I've got my cards one, which was probably the most complex. This is the most complex animation, believe it or not, even though it doesn't look like it. But I had to create the front and the back of the card and then rotate them and then match them up so they looked like they were the one thing. So that's this file here.
Right.
Which are just two separate illustrations, just sort of rotating around and then just matching up at the right spot. So yeah, I think animation is really a lot of problem solving, because sometimes I'll be like, oh, okay, I want to do like a pattern of like, you know, rotating cards that are falling. How can I do that in the most like efficient way possible? And this is my solution to that problem.
Yeah, that's like a really interesting way to think about it. And also how you said, believe it or not, this was more of a complicated animation. Do you get that a lot? You think, oh yeah, I'll just animate some cards falling. Then you actually get in there and you're like, oh wow, what's the best way to do this? Like how, like, or this is more complicated than I thought it was. I kind of have to go back to the drawing board or maybe do some research online to find some solutions to how to do this. Is that something you do?
Yeah, I definitely have. Oh, this is more complicated than I thought. Thought a lot. Yeah, so
that's awesome. That jackpot one, by the way.
And with it's so often trial and error. Sorry.
Oh, that jackpot one is super awesome. That's so good.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's just that they're all on a separate layer and they all just sort of finish and start again. It's really simple. Yeah, it's just about getting around it really, and figuring out while you do something. Then it's basically impossible. Like characters walking. Oh my gosh, that's hard. That's really hard, and that's something that I've had clients ask me to do. Yeah, I've ended up, taking, forever on it because it's you think like a head, our girl. If we go back to our girl, where is she? That's very simple, but like, if she has arms and legs and they all move independently as well, and they all have their own, bends and or if you think of like a hand, like how many different joints are in a hand, you kind of got to think of like, how many bones are in that, how many muscles and how they all move. It can get really complicated.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
There was a question from Krista. When you are illustrating, do you think about the animation as well, or are you just focusing on drawing?
When I'm doing something that's going to be animated, I'm always thinking about the animation. Yeah, because there's certain things that, like, they would be really difficult to animate that I would draw, and as I was doing earlier, just layering things up as I go as well, like, just really saves time. So yeah, I do try and always think about what's to come. But that being said, sometimes I won't know how I'm going to animate it until I get into After Effects and just sort of go back and forth and figure it out while I'm doing it. So for this piece, I wasn't quite sure. Actually, something that with this piece I really wanted to do, but it was really complicated, is the dice. So I would have loved to have the dice actually not rotating this way, but rotating so it would keep revealing the six. So it was if it was like rolling backwards.
Right.
But that's quite difficult to animate because you kind of have to have everything's moving. But with this, it's just sort of rotating around on the one plane. So, that's something where, that's, 5 hours work versus,
Yeah.
2 seconds. So,
Yeah.
you gotta kind of compromise with like how much time you want to spend on that cool thing. I would have loved to have done that, but
pick your battles and go, okay, is this something for me that no one else is going to notice, or is this like a critical part of this project?
Exactly. But and also for me, there's a part of me that's like, oh, I really want to do it because I really want to nail that and know how to do it next time someone asks me to do that.
Yeah, sure.
So because like once you learn it once, you're like, oh, now I know it. So yeah, for sure.
Oh, that's great. We've only got about 2 or 3 minutes left, believe it or not. Gone
All right, cool.
Very quickly. So as we're watching this animation, I know it's my job and duty to ask you if we can please have a look at Maggie.
Oh, absolutely. Okay, so I'll switch back to you.
Oh, yep.
If that's cool.
Yes. All good.
Yeah. Where are you?
It's amazing. Obviously, amazing animation. There's been a lot of people absolutely adoring your work.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's been too many to kind of pass on as we're going. But yeah, absolutely amazing work, and thank you so much for sharing everything, including Maggie.
Yay!
So cute. So cute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. She really hangs around. She doesn't like my lap's not, and she doesn't really like the swivel chair, so she might try and get down.
Right.
But yeah, here she is.
That's awesome. Hey Maggie, thank you for protecting Ellen and her partner from the postman. That's awesome. It's a great way to end a stream. We've had a great time. Thank you so much, Ellen. It's been wonderful. Everyone in chat, some great questions. It's been fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Flynn. It's been great, and I really hope it's been useful for people and or inspiring or informative or whatever, helpful in some way.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. And it's been absolutely fantastic. Everybody, we are back tomorrow with Andrew Peters. So we're going through some photography as part of our Monster Children campaign that's happening. So definitely come around at Sydney, 9 o'clock Sydney time. And we hope to see you there. And once more, thank you so much, Ellen and Maggie.
Thanks, Flynn.
See you later, everyone. Bye.
Bye.